When we think about healing from autoimmune disease or chronic illness, we often think about the physical body. And then we lean toward things like diet and lifestyle changes, which is great, but we sometimes forget that there's so much more to healing than just the physical body. And what I'm referring to here is the mental and emotional aspect of healing. So today I interviewed Stephanie Papadakis. She is an expert in this area. We talked about the role of trauma and grief in healing, and we also talked about some practical tools and tips if you are just getting started in this area of healing. So let's dive in, and I hope you enjoy. I'm here with Stephanie today, and we're talking about a really important topic, one that as a health practitioner, I'm hearing about more and more, like almost on a daily basis. I'm hearing about the role of grief, trauma, and mental and emotional health in well-being and in your overall health. So Stephanie, can you quickly give us an introduction, a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in studying and pursuing this area in your practice?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Stephanie Papadakis. I'm a grief specialist. I'm also a holistic nutritionist. I'm an AIP coach. I'm a transformational practitioner. So I kind of run the gamut of all the things. And I really help people get their physical, mental, and emotional health back to a place that they want to be so that they can thrive in their life. I truly believe that you can't just be working on your physical health without working on your mental and emotional health, because you're only going to get half the change. And it's vice versa too. If you're only working on your mental and emotional health, you're not going to see the physical changes you want to see. So we have to look at everything holistically. And by that, I mean whole with a W, so that you're able to really do the true healing that your body needs.
Yeah, I love that. And I know we're both autoimmune paleo certified coaches. And what I really love about this protocol is that it not only looks at the dietary aspect of healing from autoimmune disease or chronic illness, but I like to think of the other aspect kind of like a life wheel. So we're looking at stress, we're looking at sleep, connection, time spent in nature, spirituality, like all of these things play a role in our healing. And so one question that I have for you, for those of us who are just getting started, just starting to learn about mental and emotional health, what does it actually mean to be mentally and emotionally healthy or well?
That's a really good question.
Loaded question.
Super loaded. How do I answer that? Let's see. I feel like mentally and emotionally well might not be the best way to explain it, but more of just like mentally and emotionally competent or
aware.
Yeah. Like EQ, right? Emotional EQ is EQ. That's kind of like knowing what you're feeling, knowing how to communicate.
Yes.
Being able to become aware of those feelings, knowing what your triggers are, and really working to, if you find that your triggers are, causing you to do things that are harming yourself, really looking at those and being able to recognize when it's happening so that you can make the choice in the moment to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an example of what one of those triggers would be?
Yeah. So, a lot of my clients, I work with people who have autoimmune diseases, who have to start the AIP protocol. And, there's a lot of, oh, I'm not doing this right.
Right.
right? A lot of negative thoughts.
Mhm.
Well, I already messed up once, so I'm never going to get it right. So thinking about, when you're reaching for something that might not be on that, that you might be avoiding for a few months.
Yeah.
Really like becoming aware of that and asking yourself, why do I want this?
Yes.
What joy is this going to bring me? Are there other feelings that I have? Am I sad? Am I angry? Am I bored? Am I anxious? And really looking to see if there are other things that are happening that is what's causing you to reach for that food that might not be on the protocol. And that way, once you recognize that, and maybe you say, yes, I'm actually angry, and I'm angry because I can't have this food.
Right.
Maybe then you take, you make a list of things that bring you joy, and you pick one of those things instead. And you catch yourself in that moment. So you're able to build those new like grooves in your brain that show you, oh, okay, I don't have to go to this food because I'm feeling this way, but I can feel better by doing other things that are going to bring me the same joy as this food might bring me.
Yes. Yeah. That kind of leads into my next question, which is like, what is the role of emotional or mental well-being in healing? Why it is important to focus on our mental health when we're trying to heal our physical body?
Yeah, so I'm sure you know about the gut-brain connection. And for everyone listening, the gut-brain connection is so important. Our gut actually has its own nervous system, and it doesn't need to talk to the brain to do anything, but it does need to tell the brain what it's doing. And vice versa, the brain needs to tell the gut what it's doing. There are also a lot of neurotransmitters that live in the gut. So those neurotransmitters like serotonin, GABA, dopamine, they're all created there, and they're created by good bacteria. It's like, think of it as like the bacterial poop that is actually really good for you. And those neurotransmitters are what help us to feel, happy, sad, anxious. They have like the normal emotions, but they also can curb those emotions. So GABA is actually the calming neurotransmitter, so when we're anxious, we release GABA, and that helps us calm down. If we're anxious all the time, if we're depressed all the time, if we're grieving, those things actually have a physical effect on our bodies, because our bodies see all mental and emotional stress as stress. Like the body doesn't discern between the physical and the emotional stress. It's just stress. So then your blood sugar rises, your cortisol levels rise, your hormones may become, out of balance. And that's where the, gut health starts to deteriorate, and the adrenals start to become overworked. So thinking about how all of that comes together when we're talking about grief and the mental and emotional is really important to take care of your gut too.
Yeah, it might be kind of a funny question, but it just came to mind. Like, how do you, I don't want to say properly, but how do you grieve in a way where you're grieving and you're getting it all out and you're acknowledging it and you're actually moving through it rather than trying to go around it? Do you have any advice for that?
It's funny. I did have this conversation this morning, in a little bit of a different way. Healthy grieving won't come right away. There's the first few months that, whether or not you get diagnosed or you've lost a person in your life, a pet, a job, a home, a relationship, all of those are considered losses, and the normal and natural response to any loss is grief. So the first couple of months might be really, really hard, and you might find yourself down in the depths and not able to do anything, and like choosing things to do to kind of mask those feelings. So things like Netflix and binging, or, retail therapy, or overeating or undereating. That was mine. My big one was undereating.
Yeah.
And there's also, having a lot of sex or doing drugs and alcohol, excessively. Those are all things. Reading, even reading can be an escape too.
Yeah.
So those are all things and ways that we can recognize, okay, maybe I'm not dealing with my grief. So then a way to deal with it, one of them is to work with, a grief recovery specialist. Not fully plugging myself, but that is one way. And that really goes through, not necessarily like forgetting about the person or getting over the thing or getting over the thing, but really like working through all of your losses and why this one is so intense. So really talking about all those lost hopes, dreams, and expectations that you have when something goes away. So in the case of your health, like maybe it's that I can't run anymore.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. Maybe you are a baker and you can't have gluten anymore. That's a really big deal. So kind of becoming, again, it's a lot of it is about awareness.
Yeah.
It's becoming aware of this, really looking at your losses, looking at how all of your losses have affected you up to the point that you're at now, and letting go of the hopes, dreams, and expectations that you had for
the letting go. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. So as a grief recovery specialist, how would you facilitate that with a client?
Yeah, so it's a process. It starts off with kind of recognizing your short-term energy relieving behaviors, which are called STIRBs.
Okay.
Those are what I had just talked about, the like Netflix and binging, the overeating, undereating, all of those things that like mask your grief.
So like the distractions or the buffers, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
So really becoming aware of those and looking where in your life those things are happening. And then we'd go through a loss history graph, and that charts like all of your losses that you've ever had from the time you were, you had your first memory until now. We go over that and really look at which points in your life you've had these major losses. And a lot of times, clients will see that, and they might, have come to me to deal with one thing, but then they realize like, oh, actually, there's something that I haven't dealt with. There's like a lot of unprocessed grief, and that's the thing I want to focus on.
Yeah.
So then the next stage is creating a relationship graph with whatever that loss was. And looking at all of the kind of like positive things and all of the negative things that happened. And then upon completion, you write a letter to that loss.
Okay.
Letting go of all those hopes, dreams, and expectations.
Yeah, I like that you alluded to writing that letter, because I like to use that as a tool in so many different ways. It's like if you have any kind of conflict going on in your life or something isn't going well, you can simply write a letter to that person. It doesn't have to be filtered. You can say it in any which way you want, knowing that you never have to give it to them. And there is such a sense of relief and completion sometimes with that kind of writing.
It's true. I mean, that's why I think a lot of us tell our clients to journal too, like even if they can every day, like, or a few times a week, like it can be helpful to not have to hold those feelings in. because holding those feelings in causes more stress on your body, right? So the idea is, even if you're not telling the person, or you're unable, like even if you're unable to tell the person because they died, you don't talk to the person anymore, it could be a living death.
Yeah.
It's still so helpful to just get it out so that you're not ruminating on it.
And would things like lost opportunities, not making a sports team, not getting a job, would those things be under the grief umbrella?
You know, if it was something that you put your heart and soul into, and it was something that you really, really wanted and didn't get, yes. Asterisk.
Yeah.
Yes, asterisk. I think a job loss, like getting fired or laid off, would be considered more of a loss. Not making a team might be disappointment in yourself, which would then, we'd want to work on kind of like that perfectionism tendency to see what is underneath that.
Yeah, I guess that's a really good distinction, is disappointment versus grief. I hadn't really thought about that before.
Yeah, because you can be disappointed about a lot of things. But I think if we're talking about our health, that's loss of health is grief, would be like you would grieve over that.
Okay, so just to wrap up, I'm wondering if you have any like simple and practical tips or tools. You mentioned the writing a letter, which I think is so powerful. Is there anything else you can recommend to somebody who is just kind of tipping their toe into this world of trauma, grief, and emotional well-being?
Yeah, I think a really big thing that you can do, and one of the big things that I have done, is setting aside time on the calendar to grieve. Because oftentimes in our daily lives, we have to be parents, partners, friends, colleagues, we have a ton of stuff to do, and we have to compartmentalize our feelings. And so having, an hour or two on the calendar, or however many minutes you can grant yourself one time a week, where you just get to cry or laugh or look at pictures or, light a candle or meditate, whatever it might be, that can be so helpful, because that's your time to give to yourself, to feel your feelings, because it is important to feel our feelings.
Yeah. And I think what I've learned just as an individual and through working with people is, if you try and go around the feeling, if you try and push it aside, it's going to keep arising. Where if you allow yourself to fully feel it and fully express it, then it subsides. And when it does arise the next time, it's not as like overpowering. And over time, you start to become familiar with those feelings, and then they're not as scary anymore.
Yeah. Absolutely. Really well said. Agree 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know a lot of people are going to benefit from this topic because, like you mentioned at the beginning, when we start to try and reclaim our health, we always want to look at the physical for some reason. We always want to change something in our lifestyle, something in our diet, but we're never going to heal completely unless we look beneath the surface and we go deeper. And I'm so appreciative that you took the time to do this and of the work that you do on a daily basis in this area.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I'm glad more people are hearing about it.